So at one point, Jon Snow tells Sansa that any sentence that has the word but in it makes any words that came before it not matter. I'm paraphrasing here, and it's really not that important to the episode, but I tell people that all the time. And that's why I'm growing my hair out to be Jon Snow for Halloween. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, winter is here. And it's still hot as hell in LA. Now, before I go into this review, I wanted to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, which is nobody. This video is not sponsored. I just like trolling people because people hate product placement. Alright, so I just got done watching the episode and I'm pretty tired right now. I'm quite exhausted, so I'm gonna edit this video into tomorrow morning. So this video is coming to you from beyond. Hello, people of July 17th. Before going into this review, I'll quickly say that I really did enjoy this episode, because each season plays out like a specific chapter in the series. I don't mean chapter like a book. I don't want to get this Game of Thrones confusion book thing mixed up. I mean chapter like in television series format. Hopefully you still understand what I'm trying to say. And in this first episode, it is all set up for the way Season 7 will unfold. So nothing incredibly exciting occurred. It's only the first episode. It's just a lot of anticipation for what's to come. You know, the true Game of Thrones fashion, a lot of build-up. Okay, so the opening scene of this episode played out neatly. Walter Frey, he's having another feast with his soldiers. He starts to give a speech explaining why he's having this feast. And at first, you really think you're just watching a flashback, because I'm not sitting there going, wait, is he still alive? I was sold it was a flashback I'm watching. Then he starts to recap the events of the Red Wedding, and right away I was like, oh, wait a minute, that's Arya in disguise. I was absolutely right.
Not true. Not true. Lies.
No, it is true. I called it.
You're a liar.
Okay, she called it. Anyway, though, I love that scene. It played out like in a wonderful, misleading way. And it was a victory for Arya. I thought it was cool the show starts off with a victory for one of the Starks. I love when she says, leave one wolf alive and the sheep are never safe. Even though she's not fighting alongside Bran or Jon directly, she's waging her own war and is succeeding, whilst representing the North, baby. What?
That's not what she means.
That's not, I'm saying that's what it means.
Oh, I thought that's what you were saying.
Well, what does it mean?
It means that they should have killed all the Starks, because killing Robb and then...
I know that. I'm just...
You're not saying.
Yes, and to her point, that means that they should have just killed all the Starks. I know. I was saying why I thought the line was cool. And the next scene we see is the White Walkers. And it's funny seeing the recap that played before this, because I remembered how the first couple seasons, the White Walkers, yeah, we always knew they were bad, but they weren't like the central villain. But right now, especially from this first episode, they're really building to become like the main central villain. And they didn't really reveal much with the White Walkers, but we saw that the giants they killed before, they're now White Walkers too, which makes sense. That's scary because you know how hard it is to take down a giant. Have you ever tried killing Shaquille O'Neal? I haven't. Bran shows up to reunite with his brother Jon Snow at the Night's Watch, which of course Jon Snow is not there. Nothing really new with Bran other than he's probably going to be chilling at the Night's Watch and he has a cool haircut. Bran's really not in this episode at all. I think there's more screen time dedicated to Samwell Tarly cleaning up shit than there is actual footage of Bran in this episode. More on that later. We catch up with Jon Snow, who's now the new king of the North. He's leading the people with Sansa by his side. The wildlings are there. That little badass girl from Bear Island or whatever is there. And Jon Snow argues with Sansa about what to do with the people of, I think, Umber and Karstark. There's a lot of names to keep up with. And I thought this scene was very engaging. It shows you a lot that is forming in terms of dynamics. Jon Snow is still learning to be a leader. He's even at a higher position now. While Sansa is an aide who has some really cool, badass points, but she's also kind of undermining Jon in front of the people. So we're seeing here that Jon and Sansa will have to learn how to communicate better with each other. Communication is very important. There's a great book called The Art of Communication. Forgot who does it. You can buy it off Amazon. And Jon seems to have dealt with real pain his entire life. That bastard son. That's how you say bastard in all Game of Thrones episodes. Bastard! You could be having a normal conversation with the guy. Oh, this is Jon Snow. He's a bastard son of Ned Stark. And Jon, he has sympathy and understanding and can think long-term and what's really necessary and right. So while Sansa doesn't agree with his decision fully, Jon Snow decides to continue an alliance with Umber and Karstark. And I like what's happening with Sansa a bit. You know, they had a little exchange of dialogue with Jon Snow where it does kind of seem like Sansa has taken on some attributes of Cersei from the time she spent with her. Which is what I think made little finger smile at one point when she was interjecting into Jon Snow's speech. And that conversation they're having afterwards where Jon is telling Sansa that she can't undermine him in front of the people. Sansa then compares him to Joffrey, which I feel serves as a reminder of just how far and how much Sansa has changed. And one way it does represent that Sansa wants to have a voice, that she does want to be able to represent something and not just be silenced. But it also made me go, man, remember before Joffrey how non-traumatized Sansa was? That blonde inbred did something on her, man. Then we catch up with Cersei, who took time out of her day to have that giant map that Daddy Cersei showed her. She turned it into a giant painting on the ground. She knows what the first most necessary steps are now to do as queen. She needs a bigger version of the map. I thought this scene was also interesting because Cersei is the one that everyone's really talking about, you know, the big main human villain of the show. Who's gonna be the one to kill her? When is she gonna die? But when her and Jaime are going through the map, that giant map, they start to argue and Jaime starts bringing up some really good points. Right now, they don't have a good winning chance. They're not the most powerful people anymore. So in this coming war, they're kind of the underdogs for who could win this war. And I thought that was a fascinating establishing point for the Lannisters themselves. And we also see Jaime and Cersei, they're disagreeing a lot. They're having a lot of tension between them. They haven't talked about Tommen, I don't know the American way to pronounce it, Tommen dying yet. And Cersei continues being the ruthless bitch she is by saying Tommen betrayed them when she killed the love of his life. And Iron Fist. And now that actor is the star of Iron Fist. That is the worst thing she could have done. Already from them disagreeing, it was making me go, man, you know, I agree with the theories. Jaime is gonna kill her in the end. Then when Euron Greyjoy, Urine Greyjoy is what they should have called him. When Euron Greyjoy's ship arrives and she tells Jaime they're meeting because Jaime was like, you know, we need an alliance happening. And Jaime's like, there's no way this would be a good alliance. And then she tells him he's looking for a queen. It was like, dude, do you not realize the burn you just landed on Jaime? You're being so mean to Jaime. That's why Jaime's gonna kill you in the end. Gosh. It is so hard being romantically involved with your sister. Not that I would know, but I know plenty of people who have. This is LA. It's especially hard when you're sleeping together and you have 3 dead children. You know, it's just a lot of gotta get past in order to make the relationship work. I really love the scene when Euron Greyjoy is talking with Cersei, giving her his proposal, and he starts to butt heads with Jaime. He's talking about the battle where him and Jaime were both at the same time, and that he was admiring Jaime, but it's like, were you really admiring Jaime? Or are you just kind of toying with Jaime? What are you really up to? But then he starts telling Cersei that he wants to marry her, and then he starts taking jabs at Jaime. He knows that Jaime and Cersei probably slept together because of the rumors that were spread. It's a great scene because of the actors' dynamics in that scene. Euron is looking confident as hell. Jaime just keeps looking back and forth like, oh, what's Cersei thinking about all this? Is she liking this? And Cersei, even though she denies his proposal, you can tell she kind of likes the creep. Yeah, Jaime's gonna kill her.
So you know you're wrong about Jaime killing Cersei, right? It's gonna be Arya with Jaime's face killing Cersei, thereby still fulfilling the prophecy, but Arya gets her revenge. FYI. You didn't know. Now you do.
Then we go to the library where we see Samwell Tarly has a shit job. Literally, it's a shit job. 3 straight minutes dedicated to him cleaning up people's shit and then serving them soup that looks like the shit he was cleaning up earlier. And I actually did like that touch in a weird way. Because Sam went there because he believed he actually found his purpose, his true calling. But his life has become rather mundane and repetitive. Like most American adults working a 9-to-5 job. Game of Thrones has become relatable for the modern day audience. Yeah, I really like the scene. Then Sam is helping, and I think I got the name down. It's subtitles, baby. Archmaester Marwyn. IMDb looking this up would have been way better. And they're like dissecting or doing an autopsy on a body because Game of Thrones needs its gore and there's no violence action scene in this episode. So they need to find some way to throw some of that in there. Or yeah, maybe there was something about lifestyle or whatever. And weirdly, it's this character who I don't recall from an earlier episode that actually gives some light and a little bit of hope. Because he believes the end will not come because he thinks the whole idea of the end coming has been a part of history, of people fearing that. And that kind of is true. I mean, even today you see people picketing, the end's coming. You know, if you drive down to like Studio City. All the white people petitioning. And also, it's a good moment for Sam too, because while he's been down on his luck this whole time, he actually believes Sam has really encountered a White Walker. Then we come back to Arya, who's riding her horse, looking badass. She encounters some soldiers in the Riverland, and they're singing a beautiful song. They're singing this song that I was like, there's no instruments, so I started doing this. And I went, someone in there sounds like they could be a professional, but there's no way they'd actually get a professional. And sure enough, I totally called it. It was Ed Sheeran.
That's such a lie. You're lying. I'm the one who said it was Ed Sheeran. And then you even asked me which one it was. I had to point out to you which one was Ed Sheeran.
That's true. I had to look him up on YouTube when the episode was done.
You didn't know the song.
I didn't know the songs. But at one point when Arya says, well, I've never heard that song before, he could have practically delivered that line into the camera when he says, it's a new song. And I like this scene too, because Arya on the road encountering soldiers, first thing you'd expect, she's probably gonna try to kill them because they're probably bad. And I think Arya has her right to be suspicious. I mean, we've been in the Game of Thrones world. And at one point she's even eyeing their swords, and the way it was shot was kind of making me, at least, think like, oh, is she gonna try to kill these guys and take their swords? But I feel like she chooses not to harm these people. After talking with them, she sees that these guys are good people, showing that she's not just some ruthless killer. She hasn't turned into that. She still spares the good. And plus one of them is Ed Sheeran, and you can't kill a famous person. You will get caught. Then we see the Hound, Thoros, and Dendarian. I don't know if there's an N after the D-O. They hide out at this place that's covered in snow, because winter is here, where they find a rotting corpse of a man holding his equally rotted daughter. Mean. And at first, I didn't even recognize this place, or even a reference to an earlier episode when the Hound tells them that Ael is not there. And I remember, it started like, that sounds kind of familiar. But when he was burying their bodies, I remembered like, oh, it's those guys from that episode from whenever, when he still had Arya under his captivity and they were hiding out there for a second. Yeah, this show really requires you to remember everything that goes down. But before he buries them, the Hound asks Dendarian, I'm gonna call him D for now on. The Hound asks D, why does the God of Light keep bringing you back? It was a question I never asked myself either. I never even looked too much into that character. But when they were asking that question, the conversation that was following, it started making me think, oh, maybe this guy's gonna be built up to be something even more important in later parts of the show. Maybe he'll help aid in the fight against the White Walkers, because that was a really cool scene when the Hound is looking into the fire and he starts to have visions of the White Walkers approaching the Night's Watch wall. Because I like any show or movie when a non-believer badass character starts to believe in a higher calling. And I feel like the Hound is now on this path of because he's slowly been a bad guy, slowly morphing into a guy who can be for a higher purpose, something good. And I feel like with that extra layer of believing in something spiritual can really aid in his redemption path. And then they cut back to Sam, where I'm glad they didn't just start off with him cleaning up poop, who's going through books, inbred child, wife, girlfriend, I forgot her name. You remember her name?
What?
Sam's girl? Jilly. Jilly. I almost said Gimli, who is the dwarf in Lord of the Rings. And they come back to Sam, and he's looking through books. He went into the restricted mode. No, not restricted mode. That's a thing on YouTube. He went into the restricted wall area where he got a book to read upon the White Walkers. And he discovers where there could be dragon glass located, which makes that scene all the more special, you know, giving some hope. Thank God it's a season of hope. Dragonglass is the only chance Jon Snow and the North have a chance of actually defeating the White Walkers with. But then, oh man, when Sam is doing his usual rounds of cleaning up people's poop, a hand and an arm reaches out for him that's covered in grayscale, and it scares the crap out of Sam, and then you hear this guy go, Khaleesi, please, Khaleesi. He goes, has she come yet, the Dragon Queen? And you're like, oh crap, that's Jorah! I was so excited because Jorah's one of my favorite characters, and truthfully I might have missed it if the closed captions didn't say Jorah with the following words of his dialogue. Because I'm a little slow sometimes. And I just felt so sorry for that guy in that moment, man. All this guy has wanted is for Daenerys to be in love with him. That's all he's wanted. Then he makes a promise that he's gonna find a cure for the grayscale, and I'm glad he's still alive, but man, is he not succeeding on getting this crap cured. And then the final scene. Daenerys returns to Dragonstone, which I think is the first time we're actually seeing Dragonstone. I might have been in the first season. I don't recall offhand. You can leave a comment and bitch me out if you want. Or you can just tell me, yeah, it was. But it was really cool when she shows up. The production design of it all looks fantastic. You can see that all the talks about budget going up has really been implemented here. Daenerys takes on a flag that looks like a Lannister flag. Thanks for pointing that out, by the way. The Lannister flag thing, thank you. And even the layout for the throne kind of looks like a setup to King's Landing. Thanks for pointing that out too, by the way. These are all my observations I made on my own. And then the show ends with Daenerys looking at a table. There's like 3D war-like tables so they can devise plans to attack. And says, shall we begin? Concluding the setup! It's an exciting ending because Cersei's main concern is Daenerys. Jaime even tells Cersei she'll be heading for Dragonstone. Daenerys is now at Dragonstone. And once Jon gets that letter from Sam, he's probably gonna take some people and head to Dragonstone as well to collect some dragon glass. Which makes me think one of two things. Now keep in mind, this is very important. 9 times out of 10, my predictions on Game of Thrones are wrong. I'm glad you tuned into this video. One prediction is, when the three of them are there, Jon will convince them not to fight with each other, but work together in order to take down the White Walkers, because right now, Jon can't afford any other enemies, especially not Cersei. His main focus is, we gotta take down the White Walkers. That is primary. Or to lessen some problems, Jon will work with Daenerys along the way, find out that they're actually a family, to fight against Cersei and her forces, help Daenerys take over King's Landing. Jon Snow will commit some incest act with Daenerys. No one believes me on that. Like I said, my predictions are usually wrong. And it was cool too because a lot of this episode, while we got a more focus on certain characters, they still gave hints at where other characters are at. You know, Brienne Tarth is still doing her thing in the north, and she's even training Podrick, and Podrick is John Humphrey. I want you guys to know that. You know, when you play that game, which character are you? That's John Humphrey. And Daenerys returning back, that's the whole scene. She only gets one line in the whole episode, and you do see Tyrion is there, and it's like, her team is like the Breakfast Club. That's how I view her team. You got 2 eunuchs, black woman, and it's like the most diverse. It's like the most random, like you just don't expect these group of people to be in a group together. One eunuch who's a psychological mastermind, then you got another eunuch who's a soldier who's in love with the black woman translator, and Tyrion, the little man, I believe that's the PC word, and the Greyjoys are there too, I believe.
Would Theon be a eunuch? Because he doesn't have a...
So there's 3 eunuchs plus the whole army. Anyway, I really did enjoy the episode. I'm so excited for where this season is going. I can't wait to tune in every single Sunday. I don't know if I'm going to be one of those people who does a review every week. Unless you really like this video, then maybe I'll carve out some time. What did you think, people? I'm Jon Snow. I'm not gonna do it. Subscribe to The Real Rejects. Click that notification bell. Follow me at The Greg Alba on Instagram and Twitter. And as always, make sure to check out our exclusive perks and rewards over at patreon.com/TheRealRejects. All proceeds go to helping this channel stay alive.